free agent quarterbacks. That's the news of football right now. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. And, of course, we know it's Tom Brady who leads the pack here as far as where does he go? Does he stay or does he go? Does he stay or does he go? You think he's going?
All right, Joe Strummer. I think he's going. I think if he was going to stay, we would know it by now. Just like we know Drew Brees is staying with the Patriots. I mean, with the Saints, rather. That would be a story if Drew Brees is with the Patriots.
Yes, it would be.
I feel like he's going. Why let it play out this long if you're staying? Why do that? Because I think the uncertainty does a certain amount of damage to the relationship. Just make it known you're staying if you're going to stay. And I think with each passing hour, it becomes more likely that he leaves. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah.
I have no information. Nobody knows anything, as Tom Brady said himself. Nobody knows. No, and I don't know. But I know this. Unlike Drew Brees, there's a sense he may leave,
right.
And I just think right now he is.
Yeah,
and I kind of want him to, so I can't separate that feeling. I'm rooting for him to leave because I think it makes for a better story. And that may be clouding my judgment that I think he's going to leave because I acknowledge I want him to leave.
Well, okay, I think he'll stay. I do think he'll stay. I do think that he is entertaining the possibility of leaving. Okay, I do agree with some of what you're saying. But the other reason I think you haven't heard of like him just going, "Hey, I'm staying" or doing that, because I don't know if he knows exactly how serious the teams are that are going to pursue him. First off, let's just be clear here. We don't know where he's going, but we have a lot of signals and signs that say Tennessee Titans and 49ers. And as we've talked about a lot over the last week, no one seems to want to shoot them down. Most teams would shoot these type of conversations down if they felt like it got too serious and they were not interested in it. The 49ers certainly could come out and say Jimmy Garoppolo is our guy. They haven't done that. Crickets. We talked about Adam Schefter. Crickets. I mean, he's very entrenched with Tom Brady and the Shanahan family. We've heard nothing. So for me...
And Don Yee. He was going to be involved in that football league that Don Yee is still trying to put together,
right.
Pacific Pro Football League, and then ESPN had to basically tell him you're not doing that. So there's relationships all around there for him to know what's going on, so he could at least chime in on whether the chatter is true or false. And he said, as you pointed out, nothing.
Yes, nothing. So those to me are little context clues that I think you and I have successfully connected dots through our lifetime, and those things have ended up being true. Also, what I find rare about the Tennessee Titan thing, of course, there's a need, and also crickets not only about the Brady situation, but Ryan Tannehill as well, who I think plays into this. And we haven't heard one rumor or inkling or anything about a conversation with the Titans and Tannehill's people, or a number floated out there as far as money is concerned. So all those things lead me to believe that it is very real. I'm just ultimately going to say Brady goes back to New England. And Florio, you're saying he goes out the door. Okay. So if you're saying
I think he goes to San Francisco.
Okay,
I think he goes
that's
to
your
San
team?
Francisco.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. Because I think that, and I don't know who made this argument, but I kind of buy the idea that the Titans are using their Brady interest to try to leverage Ryan Tannehill.
I get that.
And I don't know that's going to work, but I don't think Brady to Nashville makes sense. I think Brady to San Francisco makes a ton of sense. Goes back home with the team that was the number 1 seed last year, upgrades at quarterback, and they try to get back to the Super Bowl and win it this year.
Now, okay, just for funsies here, okay, because I'm with you. I think ultimately it will come down to the 49ers and the Patriots too. If the Patriots lose Tom Brady, where do you think Ryan Tannehill ends up? If you had to choose between New England and Tennessee, where do you think he would end up? I don't know. I have no inside info on this either, but I would think Ryan Tannehill would fit really what I think New England would welcome him and want him. And, of course, you wouldn't have to trade for him like they would maybe an Andy Dalton or something like that.
I vaguely recall something about a fractured relationship between Bill Belichick and Tom Condon, who represents Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, you're right.
And it dates back to Ben Watson. Remember when Ben Watson was a rookie and they were trying to ram a 6-year deal down his throat because some teams insisted on 6-year deals for first-round picks at the time, and Condon quit. He fired Ben Watson. He's not putting his name on a 6-year first-round contract at that level, he was in the 20s. And is there? I don't know. You would know better than me because you were there in 2012 and you'd have heard them bitching about Tom Condon. But that would be a factor, wouldn't it, in Ryan Tannehill going to New England?
Very much, very much. He is the CAA. You're right. I don't know how that works either. No, but you're right. I know that too. I know it to be very true. And Tom represented me as well, so I know there was some little issue there between Tom and New England or Tom and Bill Belichick, whatever it may be. All right, so here's the next thing. Let me hear your thought on this. Do you think Brady's the first free agent domino at the quarterback position to fall, or do you think somebody else happens first? Do you think I tend to think Brady will be the first one to go. Like we talked about in the show today, I think he's going to realize I need to get on this first so I can give a team, hey, I'm coming, and they can build appropriately around me. I think he'll be one of those that will be rumored and we'll hear about it during the legal tampering period.
Yeah, but my guess would be that Ryan Tannehill and the Titans work out some kind of a short-term deal because here's what will happen. Before we even get to the legal tampering window, Condon will know what's out there for Tannehill.
Right.
And I just think that if he's not going to go to New England, if there isn't another team that's rushing to get him, then I think they work something out to stay put. But here's the other wrinkle here, Chris, that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
The NFL has now moved the tag deadline until 11:59 and 59 seconds a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, the 16th of March, 1 second before the legal tampering period opens. So it's not like people are going to know who is and isn't tagged because the tags can be applied right up until then.
Yeah.
Because there may be teams waiting to see whether or not Ryan Tannehill or Jameis Winston get tagged. We're not going to know until a second before you can talk to the guys about possibly signing contracts. So that's going to create a different dynamic. And so, but if anybody signs before Brady or agrees to terms before Brady, it's going to be Ryan Tannehill. Because obviously Brady can't sign with anyone until Wednesday, the 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern. It could be Tannehill signs his contract with Tennessee before then because he can at any time.
Yeah, I would say those are the two guys I would look at to be the first two on the list. I think the Brady domino is very real. I do think that'll set the market a little bit. I do, because I just think if he signs with Tennessee, I think that'll be a ripple effect for not only him, but maybe even for a Phillip Rivers and, so on. So there's a lot of things going there, but I'm with you. I think I'm going to go Brady, but I hear you with the Tannehill thing. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, anybody else that jumps to your mind before we just move on there?
No, I think those are the ones. I mean, I'm looking at these other guys. Somebody would be staying put.
Right.
If somebody's changing teams, I think Brady is the first one to change teams for the reasons you pointed out on PFT Live, that the team needs to know it's got him so it can market Brady to other free agents.
Yes, right. Okay, so now, trade-wise, there's the quarterback conversation. That's another interesting curveball we got to get into here. Of course, there's Cam Newton and that possibility. Nick Foles, we're hearing a lot of rumors about him. Andy Dalton, the same thing. I mean, I would be shocked if Andy Dalton was with the Cincinnati Bengals. When do you think that happens during this free agency period? You think that's one of those that happens very early on? Or does teams let things shake out and then reassess and then decide to make moves for a quarterback?
I think Dalton's going to happen first, and that's the one I feel most strongly about happening. I think Newton would happen after that because there's a lot of moving parts there still, and you've got to get a contract negotiated with Cam Newton to make him happy in a new city, and also you've got to get the compensation for the Panthers that they would want, and you have to just resolve the question of whether or not he wants to be there or whether or not they even want him. I just feel like that one's more complicated, and I think with Nick Foles, that's one that could maybe simmer for a bit. I could see the Colts slow playing it if they're interested in Nick Foles, and I think they should be. But you've got to work out an adjusted contract, and it's almost like a Ryan Tannehill deal where maybe the Jaguars are going to have to pay some of that money to work it out. So that feels like something that happens after the initial crush of free agency. So I'd go Dalton first, then maybe Cam, then maybe Foles. But I also think Foles is more likely to be traded than Cam.
I'm with you. I'm with you on all your thoughts there. Actually, I'm not going to disagree with anything. That would be exactly how I would have put it as well. You're right, and then the Cam, the physical, all of those things are going to delay the timeline a little bit as well. And there's more moving parts there. Okay, here's another one. Talk about quarterbacks. Like, are they guaranteed to stay where they are? Drew Brees. We know, right? We're on the same page here. Staying in New Orleans.
He's already said it. Yep, he's not leaving.
Taysom Hill. Do you think anybody makes any sort of play for Taysom Hill?
Well, I think if they do, New Orleans is going to match the offer.
Yeah.
And so, this is one of the reasons why teams don't get involved in negotiating with players who are subject to a right of first refusal, because you are just doing their current teams negotiating for them for free, unless you have a deal that you offer Taysom Hill along the lines of $15 million for 1 year with an agreement that the franchise tag and transition tag won't be applied. Then if it gets matched, you've got Taysom Hill hitting the open market in 2021. You have a fair shot at him. The problem is if the Saints don't match and say, we'll take your first-round draft pick, then you're screwed.
Then you
because you got Taysom Hill for 1 year, and then he hits the open market.
Right. Yeah, well, that is always the interesting thing, right? You can find little creative things of language to make it hard for a team to match, but ultimately, I just don't see anybody making a major play for Taysom Hill yet, because I just think the risk is the risk is higher than the reward at this point. The only one that really knows what this guy's made of and who he is Sean Payton. So I just don't see anybody even dangling that out there for the repercussions you talked about. And I think ultimately,
but isn't the fact that Sean Payton loves him enough? Sean Payton also was one of the few who loved Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no,
you see what I'm saying?
I get it. I mean, yes, you're right. I think the fear factor would be a little bit what we talked about yesterday. Is you bring Taysom Hill in, you've given him big money, right? And now, if you got to put him in at quarterback and he doesn't do well, that could be the type of move that derails a front office or a head coach and starts things on a downward path of, oh, he's stupid. How could you give a guy that only threw 15 passes that type of money? And that's where I think ultimately it's going to scare people off because I think a lot of these coaches too know that they're not as smart and as good as Sean Payton to utilize Taysom Hill, and they won't necessarily get the same results that way either. So, all right.
I think the Vikings would gladly put their first-round pick on the line to get Taysom Hill if they weren't tied up with Kirk Cousins.
Ooh.
I think that they would.
Ooh.
And I'd have no problem with it.
Yeah.
You know what? As a closet Vikings fan, although you've pulled me out of the closet. I don't want Tom Brady. I don't want Tom Brady, but I'd take Taysom Hill.
Damn, you'd take Taysom Hill. Okay, there it is. The guy, he took Taysom Hill over Kirk Cousins in the draft of quarterbacks leading up to the NFC playoffs, and Kirk Cousins won his game against Taysom Hill and Drew Brees. Remember, we left.
Yeah, but Taysom Hill was the best. Taysom Hill was the best player on the field that day.
All right, and then okay, that's it. And then Dak Prescott. Of course, we both think he's staying in Dallas. There's no freaking way.
The only way he's not staying is if Jerry Jones has too much Johnny Walker Blue. Then you can never have too much Johnny Walker Blue if you're Jerry Jones, and wakes up one day and says, I've had enough of this. We're trying to sign this guy. We're bending over backwards. He keeps saying, no, screw it. We'll get somebody else. But I think Prescott's staying put.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you too. All right, here we go. Speed round, all right? Speed round, quarterback carousel. It's up and down and around we go. Up and down and around we go. Quarterback carousel, quarterback carousel. Speed round, Florio. No long answers. We'll hit them all. Let's do it.
Okay. Go.
First one up.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. I'm going New England Patriots. I think he stays in New England.
I say he's going to end up with the San Francisco 49ers because I hope he does. I don't have any inside information. I just hope he does.
All right, Ryan Tannehill, next guy up. Where do you think he ends up?
I think he stays in Tennessee.
Okay, I'm going to stay with Tennessee Titans as well. If I will say this, if Brady ended up in San Francisco, I think Tannehill will be in New England. But yes, as of right now, I think Brady's staying in New England, so Tannehill in Tennessee. Famous Jameis Winston. Where does he end up, Mike Florio?
I have no idea. I really don't. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to keep him when it's all said and done.
Okay, I'm going to throw a team out. I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I'm a team, boy, he'd be the perfect backup. I think they would go with it.
Do you really think Ben Roethlisberger wants Jameis Winston on the roster?
I mean,
Roethlisberger is better than ever. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, that's
I don't like it.
I think it's the perfect kind of thing for Jameis Winston and the Steelers. The Steelers need to sign somebody legit as a backup quarterback. They can't trust those two shitbergs they had last year. All right.
What are they going to pay him? What are they going to pay him?
I don't know. I don't think the market will be that robust. I think you could pay him maybe $12 million, something like that. Other teams
take that and stay in Tampa. You'd rather play. You'd rather play.
Yeah, okay,
I don't like it.
All right, fine. I don't care if you don't. Other team I'm going to throw out there just for Jameis Winston, too. Maybe the Chargers. Maybe they'd bring him in as a backup, too. Okay, next one up. The ex-Chargers quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Where do you think he ends up, Michael Florio?
ESPN broadcast booth.
Wow. You're saying
I just don't. I don't think he's going to get the offers that will make him say, I'm a clear-cut starting quarterback. I don't envision, and Peter King put this idea in my head last week, and I'll take it. I don't think the Colts are going to break the bank for Phillip Rivers. I don't think anybody's going to break the bank for Phillip Rivers, and I don't think Phillip Rivers is taking an offer that makes him either clearly the backup from the moment he walks through the door or potentially the backup at some point not long after he gets there to whoever the guy is they draft. So I think he's going to be at ESPN, and I think long-term, here's my fantasy scenario for Monday Night Football. Phillip Rivers and someone for the next 2 years. 2021, ABC, whoever they get to do play-by-play, and they really want Al Michaels, and he'll not be under contract to NBC by then, so I guess they could get him if they want him, unless NBC works out an extension. Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, and a play-by-play announcer. That would be awesome. That would be the closest they've ever come to dialing it back to the 70s when it was Frank Gifford, Don Meredith, and Howard Cosell.
That's no way that'll work. There's absolutely no way that'll work. Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers in the same booth. There's not enough. They better have 95 mics in there. They're both going to want to talk, and they'll be talking over each other. No way. Too much ego in that booth. Sorry, not going to happen. I say
there wasn't too much ego when it was Frank Gifford, Don Meredith, and Howard Cosell. Well, that's what made it great.
Well, it did. It did make it great. You're right. But, I wasn't alive during all that. So here we go. All right. Now, Phillip Rivers, I'm with you. I don't think it goes to the Indianapolis Colts. I don't see that happening. I'm going to say, for playing the sake of the game, I'm going to say he ends up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to go Phillip Rivers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Teddy Bridgewater.
Now, I'd say, if Tannehill leaves Tennessee, I think Phillip Rivers could end up there. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, to the Buccaneers. I already put Jameis to the Buccaneers.
Yeah, that's right. You better think this shit out, bro. I mean, what are you talking about?
Teddy B, I don't know. Who do you think?
Way to deflect in a hurry there.
Patriots.
You're going to go Patriots? I'm going to go. I'm going to say, first off, I don't think the market is going to be anywhere near starting quarterback money for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm going to say Chicago Bears. I think that's where he's going to end up. If I'm Teddy Bridgewater, that's the kind of place I'd want to go. The team's pretty good. If this guy messes up, I get in. He messes up a lot. There's a good chance I might get in. He runs. He might get hurt. I mean, that would be one I'd look at. Who's the next one up? Marcus Mariota.
But the only team we've heard about is the Raiders, and I could see him being that Ryan Tannehill figure behind Derek Carr. If Derek Carr craps down his leg, as you like to say, then Mariota could take over. Just know when to make the switch. I wonder whether or not Mariota's personality is something that'll get John Gruden excited, because he's very flatline, and Gruden wants more of an ass kicker.
Yeah, I know. That does not seem like the right fit. I'm going to go with the Chargers for Marcus Mariota. That would be my pick number one. He backs up Tyrod Taylor. He's got a following on the West Coast, as is anyway. Maybe it works out. They take a shot at him. If he does get in there, maybe they could find their quarterback of the future. I would go Chargers 1, Raiders 2.
And remember, 5 years ago, the rumor was Chargers do a trade with the Titans to get Mariota and send Phillip Rivers to Tennessee. That never happened, but that rumor was out there.
That rumor was out there. All right. Well, Pete Dimolitolitis wants to go to Andy Dalton, but he's not a free agent, and this is where I want to challenge this and go. So let's just move on, okay? We don't know. We've exhausted our teams.
You're not even going to plug him in anywhere?
Well, if you went there, I mean, yes, then.
Chicago.
Chicago is the place I would go. I already used it up for the free agent quarterbacks, though. So that's where, the producer comes back to you when the show starts. I didn't know that one was coming up, okay? Thanks, producer Pete. But, yes, I think ultimately I would say if I had to, choose anywhere, that would make a lot of sense for Andy Dalton. I think the Bears, and I do think New England will be in play for him as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.